I'm laughing because there is no consensus on how good Georgia is going to be in 2025. Everyone seems to have a different opinion. ESPN's really high. All of these individual podcast experts, some of them are actually experts, some of them aren't. They are lower on Georgia. I've seen people have Georgia ranked number 8 heading into 2025. I've seen people, Josh Pate, have Georgia ranked number 11 heading into 2025. The 6th best team in the SEC. So ESPN has Georgia ranked number 4 right now. I talked about this a few days ago, but now it's relevant again just because of why everyone is all over the place on Georgia. And it's, I will come up with a ranking soon. I'm not going to go all the way to the top 25, but I'll give you a top 15 soon. I'll sift through that and try to make that myself. Maybe I need to sit down and really, really do the work in order to get an even better opinion on it. But look, Georgia's moved up in odds a little bit. When you look at ESPN, when you look at FanDuel, their chances, according to them, now to me, betting numbers don't mean a ton. It's more about, okay, what's the consensus? What do people think is going to happen? Well, ESPN has Georgia as with the 3rd best chances to win the national title this coming season. FanDuel has them at 4. I've seen them as low as 5 or 6, right? So they're climbing up a little bit. There's a little bit more love for Gunnar Stockton. I'm going to talk about that later in this video. But the other thing about Gunnar Stockton, or not in this video, I'm going to talk about another video and I'll get to that. But the thing with him is there's no consensus on how good Gunnar is going to be. And that is kind of where this goes back to, is people aren't really sure what to make of Georgia's offense that is going to be largely brand new. But it is wild to me how much variance there is among these rankings. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post. Josh Pate has Georgia ranked number 11. Now, I don't watch him. I just don't. It's no hate, no love. Obviously he does this on a bigger scale than I do. And he's got a huge following. I don't know where I'm not watching. Maybe I should go and watch it. But the dude had Oklahoma and Florida in the top 10 and Georgia number 11. I don't know. And he said it's because I read because it was harsh, because he likes to be harsh on Georgia. He doesn't want to be a biased person. That's too low. It's too low. Okay? Joel Klatt has them at 8. Talked about this a few days ago. He is an opinion that I respect a little bit more. This is not me coming to bash people. That's not what this is about. If they're not going to see this anyway, but if they do, it's all love here. I think Joel Klatt's very smart. He has Georgia at 8, and his reasoning is because he's not sure about Gunnar Stockton, and he has more faith in Clemson's quarterback situation, Penn State's, and LSU's with Garrett Nussmeier, and that's why he has some of those teams ranked ahead of Georgia. It's why he has Georgia ranked ahead of Alabama, because he has more faith in Gunnar because he's seen more of it than Ty Simpson or Keelan Russell or whoever wins the Alabama starting quarterback job. But then I'm looking at, so I'm seeing all these people. I saw someone from CBS Sports rank Georgia number 8 or number 9. I'm seeing Georgia ranked next to Illinois, and I'm like, there is no world where Georgia, and we'll come back to this in a few months if I end up being really wrong, but there's just no world where Georgia and Illinois are in a similar boat. That's just ridiculous to me. And then you look at these odds. Illinois is way down there for FanDuel, plus 1,500 to win the national championship. FanDuel's got Georgia slated at 4 in terms of odds to win the whole thing. And that's what this is about. Texas at 1, tied with Ohio State for plus 600. So really Georgia's tied number 3. Penn State plus 700, Georgia plus 750. Okay? So Penn State is consistently getting more love than Georgia. Texas is consistently getting more love than Georgia. And Ohio State, for the most part, is getting more love than Georgia this offseason in terms of a national championship contender. Well, then I look at ESPN's. Let me backtrack real quick. FanDuel used to have Oregon, now plus 900. They used to have Oregon tied and higher than Georgia. They used to have Notre Dame closer. Now Georgia's kind of jumped up a little bit for them. So that's my context there. So then I look at ESPN. And they've got Georgia number 3. number 2 technically in odds, right? However you want to do that. But Ohio State and Texas tied with the best odds at plus 500. Georgia plus 600. Penn State tied with Oregon at plus 750. Right? I'm not telling you to go home and bet. I'm not. In fact, I'm somewhat against sports betting. I'm weird about it, and particular about when I think it should and shouldn't be done. This is just a barometer and a talking point. But it kind of goes to show there is no consensus on these Georgia Bulldogs. People do not seem to have a grasp on what they think Georgia's going to be. When you look at these schedules and you look at the teams towards the top, you know Texas is going to have to play Georgia. You know Texas is going to have to play Florida. They're going to play Oklahoma, right? They're going to play Arkansas, I believe. Their schedule's not as tough. That's part of why their odds are better. And people just straight up think Texas is better than Georgia. Ohio State, not going to be super, super challenging. They get to host Oregon, but they have to host Texas as well. So that's the other thing. Whoever wins Ohio State and Texas will be ranked number 1 in the country for at least a couple of weeks there, unless they go on to lose the next game. Georgia's got an easier schedule than they did in 2024, but still a very difficult one when you think about Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss. They got to go to Auburn, go to Tennessee. Those are not normal road games. Those are 2 of the most hostile environments in the sport. They've got a neutral site with Florida. They've got a neutral site with Georgia Tech, who I think they should win those games. But Georgia Tech gave the Dogs a run for their money in Sanford Stadium back in November. I was about to say a year ago. It hasn't been a year. Oregon's got to go to Ohio State. They got to play Penn State. Those Big Ten schedules aren't quite as tough as the SEC schedules. But then I think about, okay, well, when you get past the regular season and you look into the conference, or you get past kind of the conference stuff, then you look at playoff success, and you look at quarterback situations, and you look at returning talent, and you look at coaching situations, and that's kind of where you have to amalgamate all of this. If you look at Ohio State, the person they will be starting at quarterback will be brand new. At Texas, it'll be Arch, and that'll be mostly new. At Georgia, it'll be Gunner, and that'll be mostly new. Penn State has the returning quarterback, and that is a huge reason why they have such good odds. Clemson returns Klubnik. They have a good receiving core. They've got Dabo. They've got a good defense. That's why they're getting so much love. Notre Dame, not sure who their starting quarterback's going to be. I think that they lost some important pieces on defense for sure, but definitely return a lot of that talent that brought them to the national championship, right? Oregon, replacing the quarterback, replacing its best receiver, replacing a good bit on defense, replacing its running back. So it's kind of in a similar boat as some of these other programs. Alabama, to me, is a little bit more of a mystery. LSU, for lack of an elegant way to say it, I don't have a lot of trust with that program to make it that far. And I like Garrett Nussmeier a lot. I think he's really good. I think that he's certainly going to be in contention, at least right now he is, to be the first quarterback taken in the 2026 NFL draft. I think that had he come out this past season, he would have been in contention to be a top 10 pick this past draft, right? So you get a guy like that. Tennessee, Michigan, Ole Miss, Miami, South Carolina, Florida. To me, those teams feel like they're a little bit more on the cusp of it. So when I compare Georgia to Notre Dame, Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State, Clemson, Texas, some of the teams that are kind of consistently ahead of them in some of these rankings, I don't understand it with all of them. I don't understand how, and specifically having Georgia outside the top 10, I don't understand how you have 3 or 4 SEC teams ahead of the Dogs. It should be the first or the second ranked SEC team on your list between Texas and Georgia. And look, Texas, sure, rank them higher. I get it. I understand why Texas gets the love it does and gets the hype that it does. They have a lot of talent, and they have a quarterback that has the last name Manning and is very, very good, we think, from what we've seen so far. But Notre Dame, I don't really see why Georgia would be ranked lower than Notre Dame. I know what happened in that game, but kind of extenuating, different circumstances. Gunner first start. There's a lot going on. There's a change, and these teams are going to be a little bit different. I don't completely understand Clemson being ranked ahead, right? Just because Clemson might have an easier regular season, does that mean they're better than Georgia? We saw what that happened a year ago, and they got smacked. So that's different than it's a little bit different when you just smack a team. Oregon, I think that they have just as many question marks as the rest of the top teams. Ohio State, the talent is there. Georgia, the talent is there for sure. Is it going to work because of how much new there is, right? Because they brought in a ton from the transfer portal. A lot of the transfer portal talent is expected to play, and that's why there's no consensus. But to me, having Georgia 8 or lower is just criminal. It's criminal. All right, so let me know what you think about all that. Links are below. Thanks for watching.